Good morning, afternoon. No, I want to say Vietnam. I want to say the world of B2B e-commerce. Brian Beck here with Andy Hoare, Master B2B. Friday, 15. Nice fall weather outside. It's the end of October 2024. Everyone, we're excited to talk today about the holiday. Awesome.
So,
And
Brian, did you just finish your radio show, or are you going to start your radio show right
shut up.
after this? Are you
Yeah.
spinning the hits?
I am. Actually, yeah. Let's spin the hits. I don't have any good hits to spin here, man. So nope. It's an exciting time. Lots happening. We're getting to the end of the year. Elections around the corner. My goodness, lots of change. And impacting companies around the world. So Andy, great to be here with you. We're here for Friday 15. But let's hit our news first. Andy, I don't know if you saw this, but MDM just released some research. MDM is the modern distribution management company that does research, and a partner of ours. They just released some research around distribution companies spending less on industry events. And what they're referring to is, trade shows, traditional, hey, buyer seller getting together to, swap products and make deals and things like that. And the fact that what they found in interviewing 200 distribution companies is that those folks are spending more on things like digital media and other things, and spending less on traditional trade shows. To me, this is fascinating to see this, but I see it anecdotally, right? I don't, in terms of the, companies that I talk to that go to those shows, and I go to those shows, you go to those shows sometimes, these are traditional where, tools or industrial products, and just there's less business transacting there. And I think that's a sign of the new buyer. What do you think?
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that these used to be places where you would learn about new products. Well, you don't need to go to a physical location to
Right.
learn about new products anymore. So you can do that online. And so, I mean, there's still this, online and offline, 1 and 1 equals 3 sort of situation. But these events have to be about people learning things.
Right.
And learning about new products isn't really a great way to, unless the products are large and you're showing tractors or whatever. That's different.
Sure.
But
Right.
if you're just talking about stuff that can be done online, then I think you're going to more of a struggle to get people to come. Now, with our events, which are kind of regional events and niche events, we've actually seen a growth in those. Where people are going after, local connections, very specific and particular areas of expertise, but broad industry events where everybody get together and kind of the see and be seen thing. I think those are isolated now to very, very large events like CES and Dreamforce and stuff like that, or really large industry events. But, it's the small ones are great. The really big ones are great. It's the ones in the middle that kind of struggle.
Yeah, we're seeing, I think, in also for learning purposes and new areas of growth like digital and e-commerce. I mean, we've seen consistent growth in those events over the years. It's really the traditional, the traditional ways of doing business are changing, and this is a reflection of that. So, anyhow, let's get to our topic today, which is: does the Q4 holiday peak matter in B2B e-commerce? Andy, this is something we're going to revisit every year. We talked about it last year around this time, and ask questions of our B2B audience, because it's such a peak. I mean, I've lived this myself, and being on the B2C side of things for many years. It's a frenzy. Everyone is, really heads down. All your e-commerce and retail folks are working really hard this time of year, all the way through, the middle of December, almost end of December, because a lot of businesses they call it Black Friday for a reason, right? That's where companies move into the black. This is where they make their money in the retail sector. So does this impact B2B is the question. We found some data. This is some data last year that I'm sharing here for those of you watching. For those of you listening, the Cyber 5 last year, Cyber 5 being the 5 days between Thanksgiving and Cyber Monday, set records. Total sales were $38 billion. 7.8% year over year increase. It was the biggest. Cyber Monday was the biggest online shopping day ever in the United States. I'm talking about 2023 now. And shoppers spent 15.7 million every minute. It was a frenzy. And, analysts expect a similar, kind of growth this year. We'll see. I mean, the economy seems to be changing every day here, but anyhow, this is some data that eMarketer shared a couple of months ago, I think August, indicating they expect a 9.5% growth over 2023, and this is November and December numbers, full. So $266 trillion, billion dollars, not trillion. 9.5% growth. And in fact, as of now, Andy, this is an interesting stat. 24% of consumers have already started shopping as of early October. And it's this deal thing. I mean, I learned this in consumer, right? 81% of consumers are looking for deals and discounts during the holiday. And you've got, the retailers out there and e-com and brick and mortar investing heavily in things like social media to drive all this. 69% of U.S. e-commerce decision makers plan to increase investments in social media advertising this holiday, meaning 2024. So, and the top two things they're investing in over other things like, supply chain, AI, diversified digital payments, et cetera. They're really focusing on social. Again, all begs the question, what does this mean? Is this even relevant for B2B, right? Any thoughts on any reactions to the B2C data, Andy?
Well, not surprising. I think we've seen a transition away from offline to online. The pandemic accelerated a lot of that, not new. The question is, how does this impact B2B? A couple of interesting notes. One, because there's always been a B to big B and a B to small b when we say B2B. There's also B to B to C, which is the B2B is part of the B2B to C. So those are brands. So these two things are kind of inextricably bound. I mean, there are some pure B2B companies for sure, heavy industrial, et cetera. It's not like you or I are going to decide to buy a $100,000 earth mover, for the holidays, or maybe you did. I haven't, but the reality is, these companies not only make products, like they make other products as well. So, there are companies like Toro, for example, that they make business versions, industrial versions of things, to mow lawns at golf courses, but they also make, consumer products. And so consumers are primed for these things. The companies are primed for these things. It's inevitable that there's going to be overlap. So there's the, B2B kind of B2C, B2B to C, B to small b kind of overlap.
Right.
But, there are companies that straddle the fence too. I mentioned Toro, Home Depot, Lowe's, for example. You worked at Harbor Freight Tools. You guys were mostly B2C, but you have B2B as well.
We did.
So that's on the sell side. But on the buy side, you've got people who put on this hat as consumer, and they expect them always to take it off and put a new hat on for B2B. And it's just not the case. So we live in an attention economy where you're getting emails all day long. You're seeing deals, et cetera. And so if you see this as a consumer, there's just too much opportunity for B2B companies to capitalize on that, being primed for that. So whether it makes sense to do it or not is a different issue. But I think it's inevitable and it's inarguable that it's actually happening, because there are companies, and we've seen it. Amazon's an example of this. Global Industrial is an example of this. They serve a certain audience. I mean, Amazon Business. But, during the holidays, they've got consumers. People are paying attention to these things, so they can't help themselves but do it. But again, whether they should do it, is an interesting discussion. But are they actually doing it? I think unequivocal yes.
Well, now we got, a lot of this ties in to your point, I think, to the buyer. The buyer now, I mean, the majority of buyers are either Gen Z or millennials now. I mean, the millennials are now in their, the oldest millennials are now in their 40s. They are the majority of your B2B buyers, are younger folks who are all digital natives. To your point about, the behavior, the consumer behavior, the B2B buyer is a consumer who is a digital native. And there is some level of expectation that, hey, during this period of time, I want e-commerce deals. We just saw that data a second ago, right? With 81% of consumers are looking for deals and discounts during the holiday. So yes, is this relevant? Of course it's relevant in that regard. The question is, what do B2B companies do about it, right? So we asked
one thing to mention about this is that obviously we need to point out there are two different types of buying scenarios in B2B. There's kind of this planned spending, which is like speccing kind of spending, and then unplanned or spot spending. This doesn't affect the first one. It's not real. I haven't seen evidence of
I'm not
this.
so sure. I'm not sure about that, but
So,
go
so
ahead.
somebody's going to build but somebody's going to build a building, and they're like, we're going to have a sale on this stuff, so it accelerates somebody's building a building plans. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but on the spot market, for sure, this is what we're really talking about. It's the unplanned spending. But it makes the argument for
I'm
planned
not
spending.
so sure.
I got to hear this.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, let's think about it, right? Yeah, I know that on its surface, that's what it feels like, Andy. But remember that things change as you're doing projects, and if you have a budget allocated, I think a lot of this is driven by timing and in budget cycles more so. And I'll prove it to you as we get into our further into our data here. But this has to do with, I think, the unused portion of budgets. And the fact of the matter is, those folks need to use that. And in the planned spend portion, that does apply, right? So those are budgeted dollars that are allocated to certain categories. So guess what? When the budget's coming to an end and it's if you don't use it, goes away. So that's kind of where I think we see a lot of this behavior manifesting, less to do with holiday, but we'll get into that in a second. We asked last year this very question. Does cyber? This was during the peak period of the holiday. We asked our community in 2023: do Cyber Monday and Black Friday, the Cyber 5, have a material impact on B2B e-commerce sales, or just B2C? Well, 63% of the audience a year ago said, yeah, it does affect. Cyber 5 grows B2B e-commerce. 37% said no. So the audience, the community of ours, believes that there's a real impact here. So this is really an interesting comment from Justin Rinaldi, Director of Marketing and E-commerce at Safety Speed Manufacturing. Justin is a forum member. He made this comment inside of our forum.
Yeah, just saw him 2 days ago in Minneapolis, actually.
Oh, that's right. He was in Minneapolis at a roundtable. Yep. So Justin's been very active in our community. Thank you, Justin, for your contributions to the conversations. He said, we see a slight increase in sales during the holiday period, primarily because a lot of smaller businesses have, to my point, use it or lose it funds. And these are the main catalysts for Cyber Week spending. Interesting. So more to do with budget. So when I saw his quote, Andy, I asked myself the question, well, okay, but use it or lose it. So how many companies actually have cycles that are annual, right? That are fiscal years. So a fiscal year, as you know, companies will have, fiscal years sometimes that start in like June, or that reflect more of their own seasonality. So I was curious, how real is that in terms of how widespread is that? Because maybe in his category, but is that true in others? And what I found when I asked, of course, Chat GPT, which is the authority of everything now. Used to be Wikipedia, now it's Chat GPT, right? But I actually, anyway, we'll get into that. But I asked, how many companies have fiscal years that are calendar years? They said approximately 70% of U.S. companies use a calendar year as their fiscal year. And this is especially common, to Justin's point, among smaller companies and without significant, seasonal variations in their business. And, of course, I wanted to know, ChatGPT, is this legit? So they said they were using like filings, IRS filings, SEC filings, accounting firm reports. So to the extent we can believe ChatGPT, it seems like they have legit sources. But, raises the question, Andy, is this peak behavior really just an illusion? It's not about the holiday. It's about budget cycles. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you on that, but you still haven't kind of drawn the line between the budget cycles and planned spending. So I'm building a building, and I'm going to decide based on Christmas sales whether I'm going to put certain wiring in the building. I mean, that's what I'm kind of curious about.
Do you, Andy? Do you think those projects work perfectly and all the spend happens right when it's expected to? No. That planned spend is allocated to budget years, and if your budget's going away, you got to use it. You're going to buy it in advance. You're going to buy it before the year's out.
I do see that point about the budget cycles and the use it or lose it. I also think it's the case that, some organizations buy like consumers do, and they're getting deals from retailers, let's say, on products. And so what are they going to do? They're going to be, hey, I got all these power drills at Home Depot on sale. And then yet I go over to Grainger or Fastenal and I buy the same power drills and they're not on sale. It puts pressure on Grainger and Fastenal to put those things on sale to compete with the retailers, right?
I agree with that. I think some of this is also self-fulfilling and it's pulling demand forward. And I mean, we used to say this in the retail market. We want to stop discounting so much. We want to sell more at regular price. That was like the mantra of every freaking retailer I ever worked with, because everyone's trying to get their margins up. Well, B2B seems to be giving away margin that they may not have to, Andy. I mean, to your point, look at this. Last year, Global Industrial offered this is a Cyber Monday sale that I'm showing on the screen here. And for those listening, it says shop, click, save 20% off, extended to Friday. That sounds very consumer. This is Global Industrial. Andy, the question is, though, is this self-fulfilling, meaning that they're doing it because they think they have to, and because, obviously the majority of people think this is important. It influences them to put their own sales up, just to your last point, right? Rick,
or they're seeing your favorite thing, which is they're seeing people steal, ready for this, wallet share. They studied it and found that they're losing to retail competitors on those particular days. And to blunt that, they're doing this.
No, that's a good point. And in fact, we looked at, we asked, of course, right before our broadcast today, we asked ChatGPT, the authority on everything. Hey, does Amazon Business run deals during the holiday? And ChatGPT, of course, answered us, yes. Amazon Business often runs deals and promotions for B2B, including during the holiday season, because around major Friday, events like Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And while the promotions aren't always as heavily marketed as consumer deals, they aim to support businesses looking to restock, upgrade, or prepare for their own holiday demands. So, so you're right, Andy. Amazon Business is doing it. Obviously, Global Industrial here with this example. Rick Wingender said, who's the director of integrated marketing at Mueller Sports. And again, Rick, thank you. You are contributing frequently. We appreciate that. B2B sellers provide promotional incentives to customers to make their own numbers before the end of the year. So thank you for that, Rick. And we also got a comment from Dan Stepchew, who runs digital marketing, senior guy at Zest Dental Solutions, which sells, dental products to like dentists and, clinics and things like that. And Dan's also, by the way, a forum member of our Master B2B forum. He said, there's a good enough number of customers who call in asking for a Black Friday deal. So it seems there's some spillover from the retail culture to justify some additional promotions and ad spend to capture that subtle spike. And further, he went on to say, this is how we do it, right? We integrate winter sale across all of our channels, the site, the email, SMS, social. This is a business company. And we send it to all our sales reps. So there's not just digital. They send it to their sales reps to close deals and pull forward repeat orders. Okay, guys. So the question is this self-fulfilling? In some ways, our community is saying, hey, we're buying into this, and they're putting out promotions in B2B. What do you think?
Well, this is interesting with the dental stuff. There's a third reason for user to lose it, because people have deductibles that are going to expire at the end of the year. And so the dentist, that's one of the busiest times of the year, is at the end of the year, when everybody's going to have their deductible flip for It's an accentuation of what you talked about with the user to lose it. I want to go back to Amazon for just a moment. So sure. Amazon's kind of an interesting case study in the chain of effects, because Amazon Business, when it was Amazon Supply, would never have kind of done this sort of thing. But because Amazon Business is now part of is part of Amazon, and Amazon is doing this stuff, there's subtle pressure on Amazon Business, either opportunistically or otherwise. And then, of course, Amazon Business, because it's such a large part of B2B now, is putting pressure on at least the .coms of the traditional distributors, like the Grangers, the Fastenals. And this is where you get this follow-on effect, right?
Yeah, it's true. I think and this, by the way, so these folks need to kind of feel like they need to participate, but not everybody does. I mean, if you think about, like, we got this comment from Ben Geyer, Senior Digital Product Manager at Caterpillar. What does Caterpillar make, Andy? Big, giant equipment, right? He's also a forum member, by the way. He said, while some of our North American dealers take advantage of Q4 timing to put offers out there, any results have been insignificant. So I think there's a lot of category variance in this behavior as well. Even if they put out deals, if it's something like an earth mover, to your point, earlier, maybe it's not going to move, even if we do offer deals. So, we wanted to ask, again, our audience, Andy, this year, what do you think is going to happen? So we asked the question, does the Q4 holiday peak in consumer shopping impact B2B e-commerce? And guess what? 78% said yes. This is a LinkedIn poll we just put up this week. 22% said no impact at all. I think you got to look at your category and make a decision as to whether it's something that's meaningful for you. You need to look at your competitors and see if they're doing something, to your point, so you don't lose wallet share. But to me, the bigger driver in all this is more about budget, and just, it's more about supplying, the things that supply retail. If you're in one of those categories, sure, that's where you can drive some volume, things like that. But anyhow, any final reactions on this point? What do you think a business should do about this?
It's just inevitable spillover because it's such a large event. It reminds me of like the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is on television. Every other network is just programming either really niche stuff or running repeats or what have you. Is everybody in the United States of America watching the Super Bowl? No. There are plenty of people who aren't into football, but you can't really be unaffected by it, right? And so whether you like it or not, you have to think about it. And I think that's where B2B is with regard to the holiday season. It's just such a large event.
Right.
In addition to all those intersections we talked about, the gravitational pull is so large that you'd be almost foolish not to try and take advantage of it if you can. Like Ben's point at Caterpillar, we're $300,000 backhoe is, or whatever it would cost, is not going to be affected by it. But hey, there are adjacencies here, and maybe some parts of the business are affected by it.
Yep. I think you got to look at it category by category. So, well, this has been a great discussion. We mentioned the forum quite a bit today, Andy, and I want to encourage folks, just the incredible conversations that are happening here. If you're not a part of this, you need to be. If you're a practitioner, if you're an executive or, mid-level, or even building your career in e-commerce and B2B, anything to do with digital at all, whether that's on the IT, marketing, sales, whatever side, you should be part of our forum. There is no cost to join it. You go to masterb2b.com, click on forum. You need to submit an application. We'll review that. But if you're working at one of these companies, you absolutely should get in there. There's no sort of solution providers or vendors in there. These are pure conversations where people are helping one another with key decisions. So
there's no
encourage you to do that. And there's no cost.
There's no cost to join either. Yeah,
exactly. So we're going to be talking a lot, and we're pulling more and more of our comments and things from our forum, because that's really where we get the cleanest information and the best reactions, and it's a great place for everyone to just learn from one another. So encourage you to do that. And Andy, we just wrapped a number of great roundtables around the country this fall. We'll do some recapping on those in the future, Friday 15. But what a great set of events those were. We'll be announcing our spring roundtables soon. And remember, folks, that all of these episodes are available on podcast form on Google, Apple, Spotify, as well as on our website. Encourage you to check those out. And listen to Andy and I banter. I think we'll probably bring in some guests soon too, right, Andy? We've been talking about doing that. That'd be kind of fun.
We have been talking about doing that, so stay tuned. Definitely in 2025, perhaps even a sneak peek before then.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for listening today. Appreciate your time, and we'll see you next week on the next Friday 15.